Hello, everybody. It's 9:54, or actually 9:55 p.m. Central Time on the 8th of October, 2023. It's Sunday night here in the United States, and we are here to do a seismic update for everybody, bring you up to speed as to what's going on and the areas we're watching, as well as the areas which have already been struck. Let me go ahead and turn on a display capture so you can see what I see ever so slightly better. Hopefully you'll be able to see this. And we'll start over here in the West Pacific, and then we'll quickly make our way over to Afghanistan with a large earthquake that struck yesterday. 2,000 or more people are now confirmed perished in that earthquake. And we're going to start with the big earthquake of the bunch, though, a 7.0 USGS 6.9. Struck last night over here in the West Pacific. I'm going to open up a USGS map, which we're going to be referencing throughout the rest of this update. And that's the plate boundary map. And you'll see a red-colored earthquake over here on the west coast of the United States. Up in Washington, that's a 4.4 to 4.5, which just struck. We'll talk about that in a minute, but over here first, where our big earthquake is, at Papua New Guinea, eastern Papua New Guinea, this orange-colored quake right there. You'll see the red lines spreading out in all directions, west and east. From there, this is the Indo-Australian plate boundary, and we watch for the plate boundary to move. But the reason we watch for the plate boundary to move, we first see deep earthquakes. Deep earthquakes are raised high off the planet here for easy identification purposes. We have letter Ds, where we forecast for new deep earthquakes to occur. And we don't move the Ds. We keep the Ds in the same spot for the last 10 years. The deep earthquakes pop off over and over again, predominantly on these spots. So you'll see deep earthquake raised high off the planet here, reported by the USGS 2 days ago. Deep 4.6 on the other side today, a new deep 4.6. Two of the same sized earthquakes deep down below. Think of it like this. Two deep events down below here, and something coming up in between the two on the plate boundary, and that's the 7. So this is all going on over the past few days. Go back to the start of the week, and we had hammering action of deep 5s. Instead of deep 4s, we had deep 5s, which prompted me to tell everybody to watch between the deep earthquakes for new, shallower, larger earthquakes by up to a magnitude or greater. And in this case, we went a full magnitude greater. We went up to 7.0, USGS 6.9. You also notice that here in Japan, we have our earthquake that we were looking for a couple days ago. And now today, the weirdest thing in the world has happened. A 4.9 earthquake struck off the coast of Japan, and the mainstream media, as well as the professionals, issued a tsunami warning for the 4.9 earthquake. Erroneous. No tsunami happened. It's very bizarre what's going on here, and I don't know what to make of it. First, the media reported it as a 6.6, but as we know, a 6.6 struck last week. Not today, but yet it was listed as a 6. Then they changed it to 4.9, the professionals and the media, which is even more bizarre because 4.9s cannot cause large tsunamis region-wide. It's a scientific impossibility for a 4.9 earthquake to have a huge region-wide tsunami up the Izu Island effect. An underwater eruption could, and underwater eruption could also be registered as a near 5. Just as a point of reference, if there is any eruptive activity going on, would they tell us? So, right now, no. But I do have to tell you, they did issue a tsunami warning today for a 4.9 earthquake that's erroneous as you-know-what, and that's suspect, and it makes me ask all kinds of questions. Now, this is also at the same time that a large earthquake struck last night over here on the plate boundary over in Afghanistan, 6.3 to 6.6 as well, or 6.5. Now, let me take you back to the USGS map. There's a lot to take in. So, 7.0 earthquake here at Papua New Guinea. Deep earthquakes on one side, deep earthquakes on the other, leading to us watching there. Additionally, we issued warnings for Japan up here at the H-shaped plate boundary in my video from last week, 6 days ago and 3 days ago. Japan has since been hit. Then now a new tsunami warning, erroneous, has been issued up here in Japan. They canceled it, nothing hit. So they issued it, they canceled it, very strange. Then you should be able to see over here in Asia, at, well, a stepping stone path as we call this, but these are equidistantly spaced apart. going across all the way from Russia down to Iran. And this is on the northwest edge of the Indo-Australian plate, or really the south side of just all of Asia. And this spacing indicates a wave going across here, dropping off the quakes along the way. This is the USGS feed for the last 24 hours, what we were just looking at. Now we're looking at 48 hours. And all you'll see is that wave it carries on over the west, and it's about the same size on both sides, like bookends. 4.4 on one side all the way up in Russia, and a 4.3 all the way over on the other side over in Turkey. In between the two, big break. Now I have to tell everybody, I'm not bragging or anything. I issued a warning for this. We issued the warning for the area east of Tehran and west-northwest of Nepal. And I said that would put us into East Iran at the Turkmenistan border. And what hit? There's where it hit. So it hit on the Afghanistan side of the border at the Iran-Afghanistan-Turkmenistan border. Let me take you over and show you on my map here. So you'll see we have two sets of arrows. Two sets of arrows, one going across North Iran, making it bend down through Afghanistan. The other going across South Iran and making it bend back up into Afghanistan through the tip of Pakistan there. Now, in my video from 3 to 4 days ago, which you're welcome to go over and fact check me on this on my YouTube channel. I'm not bragging. I just have to tell you. In my videos from 5 days ago and 3 days ago, here and here, that's where I'm talking about this location here, where the arrow is. And I brought up the arrow on the north side here because the USGS, notice, the USGS has nothing going across North Iran, Turkmenistan, Afghanistan. However, if you go back and check my globe, or my planet here we are, you see it. You see we have our arrow there. And I explained in the update why we have an arrow there. The reason we have an arrow there is because of this. If you look from aerial or satellite or whatever you want to call this, from above, you'll see that in Iran, Afghanistan, and Pakistan, the plate boundary actually makes a break. It goes two directions, one to the south. USGS has it marked there in red. The other to the north. But USGS doesn't have anything marked there, do they? Now, what I noticed is that earthquakes tend to prefer path of least resistance. And so if we've got a big wave coming in from over here at Nepal, which we do, or did, prompting me to issue my warning up here, east of Tehran, west of Nepal. So now that's hit. And that's going to go over to the west. It's going to go over to the west on the plate boundary and carry on over into Turkey, the Aegean Sea, South Europe, East Europe, and out to Iceland and the North Pole. The North Pole should get hit with a earthquake this week of somewhat significant size. It might get people's attention. A 5+ earthquake out there at the North Pole, it might get people's attention. Anyway, so let's recap. Last week's forecast, 5 days ago, called for a return to 6.0 level activity plus a 7, and we were looking for that. It had been weeks since we had seen any 6.0 plus level activity spread across the planet. So this is 5 days ago when I talked about this. Now, since then, this is what's happened. So 1, 2, 3, possibly 4 different large earthquakes. And I say possibly because, well, actually 5 because of today. So 4 or 5 large earthquakes across the West Pacific, and I haven't even talked about what happened in Mexico. USGS 5.9. Wait, USGS 6.9. USGS 5.9. USGS with the tsunami over here in Japan, 4.9. Getting a little .90 around here, isn't it? Real sciencey. It's like Commander Data. You had a .9 on the end of something. It sounds more like science. I don't know what to make of it other than they're downgrading the quakes to be the next magnitude down to pad the numbers, right? You can't have 6 different 6s in a few days' time. That kind of defeats the whole mantra that there's never an increase going on. Have you ever heard a seismologist talk about a seismic increase taking place? In the history of all earthquakes, have you ever heard a professional say there's an increase ever taking place? No, they always say it's status quo and normal. Meanwhile, everything's getting downgraded to 0.9 on the next magnitude down. They're taking 6s down to 5.9, so they're taking 7 down to 6.9. They even tried to do it to the Japan megaquake back in 2011 when the 9.0 earthquake struck here on the coast of Japan. USGS came in, reported the 9, downgraded it to 8.9. And they kept it at 8.9 for like a year. And under shame and pressure and everything else, they recalculated it and then now have it at a 9 again. But they tried to even do that to the big earthquake in Japan, to 0.9 it. You know why? You can't have more than one huge worldwide megaquake in 50 years. That defeats all the stats that they said such and such were probabilities on. So in order to get rid of that 9, what did they do? They took it down to an 8.9. But then under pressure, they had to bring it back up. So they're doing this 0.9 business all over the place, and they did it here in Mexico. They took a 6 point something and took it down to a 5.9, tried to tell us it's nothing to worry about. Make you feel better, right? Well, how about all the damage that happened in the videos that came out from down in Mexico? What about that? All my viewers down in Mexico writing me, telling me that it went on for minutes. The shaking kept on carrying on. Now, I would say the shaking for minutes can carry on because of the location, and professionals should weigh in and tell you about this. But they don't. They don't want to panic the public. So when a earthquake strikes down here, and it's in a basin, let's just grab this area as an example. The earthquake strikes on the north side here, comes down and reverberates into this basin. Because of the sedimentary layers there along the shore, it will actually reverberate around in the basin, possibly for minutes or more, on an earthquake that only lasted 20 or 30 seconds. So an earthquake breaks for 10, 15, 20 seconds, and then you shake for several minutes in the basin. That's a possibility. I'm not saying that's exactly what happened, but that's my take on it. Anyway, the professionals downgrading it, taking it to a 5.9. So how many 6s is that now? Again, you got to just throw out their downgrade. It's a 6. So a 6 struck in Mexico, 7 struck in Papua New Guinea, 2 sets of 6s struck in Japan, plus a possible third one today that they downgraded to 4.9, and another 6 struck over here in Afghanistan. That's a return to 6s. That's what we were looking for. Now, it looks like with the solar activity going on and with the round of new deep earthquakes that you see here on the screen now, we're going to, unfortunately, it looks like, take the next step up. And I have to issue a new series of forecasts now. We're 5 days in on my 7-day forecast from last week. And it's looking like in 2 days, I might as well just do it now. I'm telling you now, but in 2 days, I will get a new forecast out that takes us up the next notch up from where we are now. And they can go ahead and downgrade it all they want. 6.9s, they can take them, or the 7s, they can take down to 6.9s now. But next week, when we're at 7.5 to 7.9, when we're the next rung up higher on the ladder, and they're downgrading that 8 to be a 7.9, that's probably where we're going to be at, but I'm going to wait 2 more days before officially issuing the forecast. I'll just tell you now, I'm going to watch over here in the West Pacific, Indonesia, right here on the S-shaped plate boundary. S, literally, it's shaped like a letter S. And we're going to look on the east side of it where the letter D is. That's where Indonesia meets into Papua New Guinea. I mean, technically, that's still Indonesia, but right in here. And we'll watch for up to an 8 this coming week in the West Pacific. I know. And that doesn't count what's going to happen over here on the east side. I'm going to get into the second. But with all these 6s popping off on one side of the planet, and we only have 1 on the other. So think of it like a lopsided scale, where the wave is going on one side all the way over to Afghanistan. On the other side, we got a 5.9. That's it. There's going to be compensation on the opposite side. And then that puts South America into Central America into the mix. See where all the arrows point? It's like one big funnel focus point over to the east off the coast of Colombia. In my forecast, 2 days from now, I'm most likely, unless something changes in the next 2 days, I will be issuing a warning for a 7.0 range earthquake to be striking here, and an 8.0 or an upper 7, again, they might downgrade it, to be striking at Indonesia. So 2 big earthquakes should be coming this week. One over here in between the whole hot mess of quakes that are still going on as this wave is bouncing around the whole region, going out all the way to Afghanistan. And, well, we're not going beyond Afghanistan. And the way I know we're not going beyond Afghanistan, we have one lone quake out in front of it, out over in Europe, or Turkey. Meanwhile, back behind it, it's literally a stepping stone path of earthquakes leading back to the big disturbance. Big disturbance coming up from down below. It's going to go across the opposite side. You see where the arrows point. One side's moving, the other side's not. The side that's not, building up. We would expect it to break. That's why I'm going to warn there. 2 days from now, that'll be in the forecast. But, I mean, it could happen between now and the time I issue the forecast. So, I mean, it's imminent. This is already taking place. Now, let's talk about Europe. Let's go in the opposite direction, go all the way over to Europe. So, what's up with the evacuations over at Campi Flegrei? You know, I got to talk about this. This is a big deal. So, a 5.0 range earthquake and a subsequent 4s struck over here at Italy. See where it says Campi Flegrei? This is a super volcano. Let me zoom in on it, show it to you. There it is. This is a super volcano in Naples, Italy. Just, you know, again, I mean, look where we are. We're right next to Vesuvius, right? South of Rome, of course. But we're right along the coast, and there's so many people that live in here. Hundreds of thousands of people live around the whole area. But this is a super volcano, and it experienced a series of earthquakes, 4.0 plus. And when the earthquakes struck, open talk from the professionals in the area about possible evacuation plans needing to be developed for the people around this. And, of course, there's Vesuvius next to it, and we all know about that. So, or if you don't, you can look up the history of the eruptions at Vesuvius, okay? It's a pretty big deal. You might have heard about people buried in volcanic ash before, okay? So, looking back at the whole area, I had issued a warning out here on the Adriatic Sea. Let me show you where we issued the warning and where the quake struck at Campi Flegrei before you worry about an eruption of supervolcano. Let's talk about seismic. So here's Italy. See the J-shaped plate boundary? And we had issued a warning on the Adriatic Sea next to Croatia and Bosnia. Here's Bosnia. Here's Croatia. Here's the Adriatic Sea. Here's the plate boundary. We issued our warning there for 5.0 earthquake to strike. Then, 3 days later, Campi Flegrei got hit. Where's Campi Flegrei? It's right here. So we warned here for a 5, and then a series of earthquakes struck from Campi Flegrei all the way back over to the plate boundary. I think that's it. I think the wave went to the magma chamber at Campi Flegrei for some reason, most likely because it's already perturbed and already rising. The wave went in, vibrated in, broke with a 5, and made its way back out and around Europe, dropping off a 4 at Poland a few days ago, 2 days ago, and then a new 5 struck here. So let's recap. Oh, well, hey, look. European agency reporting 4.5 or sent to USGS. They actually put it on the feed, one of them. They don't have the Campi Flegrei earthquake on there. How ironic, right? So they don't have the Campi Flegrei earthquake on there, but it shows the area that was moving. So it started the week, area moving there. Then we got a 4, you don't see it, but reported by the Germans, Geophon Potsdam. 4.0 earthquake here at Poland, and then a 5 struck out here. 5 down here, 5 out here. Went through Campi Flegrei on the way out. That's what I think is going on at Campi Flegrei. While it is rising, it also falls. You got to remember, things don't just always rise. So they rise and fall. It's like supervolcanoes breathe, basically, if you think of it like that. The whole region goes up and down. This happens at Yellowstone. And eventually you get to a point where a big breath is taken, where a big wave comes in, where a big push comes in through the magma chamber. Push of what, right? Well, I think I figured out what that is. Very low frequency to ultra low frequency of piezoelectric, going through the plate, and it inflates the magma chambers literally with electrical pressure. Well, there is such a thing apparently as electrical pressure. We're going to get into that at some point in my book that we're now producing. I am writing a book explaining all the methods and how to do it. It will be free for download online, and we will have paperback versions of the book explaining the full method. Now, I've already put this out. The method's already been published, so I'm not waiting to put this in the book. I've already put the method out for anybody to repeat. I did that in 2018, the day that I warned California. I almost said Japan. I had warned California for a 7.0, a very rare, largest in 20 years earthquake, and I had warned San Francisco to the south tip of the valley for a 7 to hit. And the next day, a 7 hit right here at Ridgecrest, down at the south tip of the valley, southeast side. So I had warned here to here, and then it hit here. And it was the largest earthquake in 20 years. That was in 2018 on 4th of July. When that happened, I published the how-to forecast an earthquake step-by-step video for anybody to test and repeat. Up until that point, I'd been explaining it in all my videos, but I'd never made a video like, hey, here's how to do it. And so I did that in 2018, putting out the method for the biggest earthquake, again, when I got it right, for the biggest quake in 20 years in California. Not bragging, again, when people like newbies or people who are new here or whatever, when they hear me talking about my successes, they consider that bragging for some reason. I've got to give examples of where I got it right. I'm the person who found this. So anyway, let's go into, let's recap. We're going to look for this coming week when I issue my forecast, but you can already start to look for it now, over here in Indonesia for a potential extremely large earthquake. Additionally, we're going to watch across the plate over here for 7 to strike. Now, in Japan, I haven't gotten into that yet, but we're going to watch for Japan to start moving on the north side, up here by Hokkaido, where all the rings are overlapping. A new break to take place up off the coast of northeast Japan. You can already see there's a creeping action going on all the way up in the Kurils and all the way down south at Philippines, Taiwan. And I would think that's going to go up to 6.5 on the north side. On the south side, like I said, big earthquake due down here. Everybody in Philippines, Papua New Guinea, Indonesia, Malaysia, they all need to be warned on this one because if it's a big earthquake like that, it should strike and the whole region should feel it. Over across into Europe, we're going to watch over into South Europe at the Aegean Sea. And we're going to watch for a 5.5. We have a 6.3 to 6.4 coming in. I think by the time it gets to the Aegean Sea, we're going to see it down at a 5.5, maybe as high as a 5.9 USGS. Anyway, Aegean Sea is right here, and we're going to be watching from Crete on the north side into the central Aegean for that quake to strike. If it goes any bigger, I apologize. I'm trying to get it within a magnitude. So if it goes up to 6.5, that'll be a big deal. Now let's talk about United States lower 48, Hawaii, and Alaska. Alaska's been, noticeably minus large earthquakes for many, many months' time. If you've lived up there for a long time, you know you should get 7s every few months. And in this case, it's been a long time since we've had any large earthquakes up in Alaska. Whenever I see one side of the plate moving, and I haven't seen compensation on the other, I've already told you, we need to watch on the other side of the plate for the 7 over at Columbia going into Panama. But on the north side, it's like a teeter-totter or a seesaw, a child's seesaw, or a 2-arm scale is another analogy we could use, where you've got movement going on one side, and we're going to expect movement on the other, and the balance point between the two should also break. And the balance point, it's not a balance point, it's actually a transfer point, but same principle applies. We would watch for a break up here on the north side as well as the others. So it's really all sides that should be breaking this week, and up to the north in my next forecast, which I will issue in 2 days. Most likely, unless something changes with this as well, we're going to be warning for a mid-range 6, the same sized earthquake that struck in Japan, to strike out here out to the east-northeast. In between the two, we're going to watch for that 6 to 6.5 to strike at Japan as well on the north side of Japan. So it's 2 6.5s on the north side of the Pacific that we're going to watch for in the next few days. Topping it all off, get this, Hawaii has started to swarm. Big swarm out in Hawaii. Look at the stack of earthquakes there. They're going down and around the Big Island's main player, which is Kilauea, but there's also a line of quakes going from Mauna Loa down to Pu'u'o'o. And I noticed that the professionals held an emergency update meeting on Kilauea today. Was it this morning? I didn't catch what they said. I just caught that they were having it. Now, the weird thing that's going on here, I made a post on this. This is the weird part that's going on. I make a post on a meeting or whatever, but here we are. Sulfur deposits are showing up around this lava flow inside of the crater. Bright yellow sulfur deposits. You can get a much better view of it over on Doing Hawaii or Two Pineapples live streams. And I just want to remind everybody that the last time we saw the sulfur deposits like this, big yellow deposits where the smoke is coming up and gases are coming out, that sulfur buildup preceded a large blast the last time we saw this. Now, the last time it was happening on the edge of the crater, and they were doing drone flyovers showing the collapsing crater at Kilauea. This is a few years ago. And when they did the live flyover, it was a live flyover, I think, or maybe it was recorded. Either way, they did a drone flyover and they uploaded the video to the USGS and Hawaii Volcanoes page. And you could see on the edge of the crater where the smoke was coming out, these big deposits of yellow building up. I made a video about it and said, hey, look, sulfur dioxide buildup. All these people showed up out of nowhere saying that the SO2 meters weren't showing anything and I was exaggerating and I needed to delete my video, telling me to take down my video. It's a very odd response to me showing the sulfur. Then they stopped doing the flyovers as of the next day. They'd been doing them religiously. I put out the video showing the sulfur and the flyover. Next thing you know, flyovers stopped, literally the next day. They didn't announce why, they just stopped. All these people came over denying it, saying it didn't mean anything. And then within a couple of weeks, boom, or maybe it was 3 weeks, 4 weeks at the most, or 2 to 4 weeks, boom, huge blast at Kilauea. And the sulfur buildup on the edge of the crater was due to gases building up down below, just basic stuff. But then you have to ask yourself, why weren't the SO2 meters showing anything when there's a huge deposit of sulfur building up on the side from the gases coming out, right? So look at the tilt meter here. I took a screenshot of it. You can see starting on the 3rd, October 3rd, going through the 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th, that the tilt meter went up, 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 and now it's still going up as of, it's even higher than where it was when the eruption first happened last week or 2 weeks ago, the tilt meter. So I'm just watching, and as that's all going on, a new earthquake swarm has now started to take place. The only thing missing now is a new 4 next to Pu'u'o'o, or between Kilauea and Pu'u'o'o. I'm looking for a 4 to upper 4, a 4 to a 4.9 to strike there. 6 to 6.5 in the middle of the Aleutian Island chain, right here where Shishaldin volcano erupted with that 42,000-foot-high blast a couple weeks back that you didn't hear about on the news. Oh, yeah, the near 50,000-foot-high blast up at Shishaldin that they didn't tell you about. You remember? Well, let's go in here up into the Pacific Northwest, shall we? PNW USA. Go in and talk about this significant earthquake that just hit. Significant because people are reporting feeling a very strong shaking, but it's only listed as a 4.3. I don't know why you guys are over-exaggerating the earthquake shaking up there, guys. When you're writing me and telling me that it's a tremendous amount of shaking took place, USGS says it's a 4.3, and they say that you're exaggerating. How could you have a tremendous amount of shaking on a 4.3, right? Okay, so let's go and take a look here. We are on the edge of the Olympic Peninsula. We're really on the edge of the Strait of Juan de Fuca that goes down into the Puget Sound. Due east, southeast, is Seattle itself. Don't be alarmed. Whenever we see earthquakes here, it's a sign of the incoming wave, and the wave should be going over to the east. However, I'd like to point out that in my update 5 days ago, we zoomed in on this area, and I talked about a ring of earthquakes around this whole area. There was nothing here in the middle. The ring of earthquakes I talked about, and I said, guys, if we start to go up in the number of earthquakes or in the magnitudes, I would be concerned to watch the middle point here on the Strait of Juan de Fuca for a mid-range 4 to 5.0 earthquake to strike. And you can go listen to my update from 5 days ago talking about this. This is the first earthquake this size this year in this location. So, first earthquake of the year now. And we talked about it 5 days ago. And the reason we talked about it is because the swarm down at Rainier, the swarm down at St. Helens, the onesie-twosie earthquakes that went all the way around the area. And I called them onesie-twosie earthquakes, and people were laughing in the comments if you want to go read the comments from 5 days ago. They're like, onesie-twosies, ha ha ha, you've been doing this too long. Anyway, 1.0s and 2.0s were striking all the way around in a big ring around the area, prompting me to focus in on the area and told you to watch for a mid-range 4. First one this year. Now, there's a line of earthquakes going down past and through Yellowstone. However, Yellowstone's swarm has stopped. While Yellowstone's swarm has stopped, a new significant-sized earthquake, the total size of the Yellowstone swarm, those hundreds of zeros, ones, and twos, added up to a 3. And what did we get down to the south? On the edge of the craton, just struck in the past few minutes, down in Texas. Hermleigh, Texas. Let's go up, look it up. Hermleigh, Texas. You guys know what's down in Texas? We go from Yellowstone down to Texas. Why is the seismic wave going down to Texas? Why isn't it just going straight across the United States? Well, it's following the edge of the craton, but along the edge of the craton, we got stuff like this. See these tanks and pumps and pipe? And you see how they connect to other tanks and pumps and pipe? And then you go out and you see there's a whole bunch of these square pads. Each one of these is oil, gas, or in this case, most likely wastewater disposal, fracking, where they'll actually inject chemically laden water into the ground to break apart old shale in old wells to release oil and gas up through the water. Toxic water that breaks apart the shale releases the old oil and gas that's still trapped in there, and they get more out, squeeze dry an old well. Then they'll drill new ones and do the same thing. Now look how many there are. So we've got hundreds of drill points right there next to the earthquake epicenter. That's the cause of the quake at the location. The wave is dropping off same-sized earthquakes, 3.1, right? That struck yesterday into this morning, and a 3.1. The next step on this is a new 3.1, 3 to 3.1, to strike out in front as the wave keeps going. And we should see the East Coast get hit with a similar-sized earthquake in the next few days. Right now, you can see it's pretty dry up in the Northeast when it comes to seismic. When I say Northeast, I mean Virginia to D.C., as far north as the New York border with Quebec. Now, let's go down and talk about California. I've got a warning. It goes for 2 more days. 7-day warning issued 5 days ago for Southern California. Central California, I'm sorry. We're watching Central California for a 5.0 earthquake to strike between this line of earthquakes and this line of earthquakes. Now, there's something new which has happened here in the past few hours. A significant sized swarm has broken out at a new location that I've never had to talk about in my entire time reporting here. Normally, I am talking about this location here at Clear Lake Volcanic Field called Geysers. See where it says the Geysers? We're normally talking about there. But now we've moved to a mystery location that I have no idea what is there. I have to go look it up. Middletown, California. Isn't this where a fire happened? Didn't Middletown burn? Pretty sure there was the Middletown fires. I just remember hearing about Middletown. Weird. Okay. Maybe I'm wrong on that. Oh, wow. Okay, so we're just east of Geyser Peak. I wonder how far away the nearest drill points are. This is a new location. Is there something here worth mentioning? Some kind of mining maybe is going on there or has gone on in the past. The tailing piles there kind of tell the tale of mining. What else do we have going on out here? A house? Really? Look at that. Hashtag Tartaria. Look at the bricks there, the stone up at the top, right? What else is going on in here? Well, it looks like mining, old roads, nothing of significance, no drill points at all at the location directly. However, you go right over this peak, right to here where it says Geyser Peak Volcano, and these are all of our geothermal drill points for getting steam out of the ground to produce electricity. But the steam is coming from the volcano here, which is called Clear Lake Volcanic Field, right across through here. I'll just say it. We have now transferred over to Napa Valley. Napa Valley is now moving. Let's go over and look at the USGS map and show you really what we're talking about here. In Northwest California, we have the San Andreas Fault. Everybody knows about the San Andreas. You've heard it before. It goes all the way through California, down south to the border, and up north, comes out and goes out to the ocean and to the Juan de Fuca. Now, the earthquake swarm I'm talking about is over here, and to see the faults which are moving, maybe I need to actually turn on something here. We need to turn on the U.S. fault zone map, which we don't normally have to reference. What's the name of this fault? Normally, we just look at the plate boundaries. We don't have to look at the smaller faults. Koloyomi Fault Zone. It's very interesting to see this happening. So Napa down here to the east by southeast of the lake, so really right in here. And that connects down into the Bay Area. Again, I haven't seen this area move before, so I have to watch it. I don't know what it means other than the whole area around the volcano is saturated with the seismic wave. That's also given away by the earthquakes going down through the Bay Area, all the way down the creeping section. The whole creeping section of the San Andreas here has been creeping. There's sometimes whole weeks we go by with only 1 or 2 earthquake spots here along the creeping section. In this case, it's the whole thing from San Francisco all the way down to the drill points. Yes, they've drilled next to the San Andreas. Let me show you. So we go from the swarm down through the Bay Area, follow the San Andreas down to this place called Parkfield. And right next to Parkfield are 1,000 million drill points, where they begin at least, for oil and gas, right along the San Andreas, just right over the ridge. So here's the earthquake epicenter. Here is the San Andreas, right over the ridge. Oil and gas. Thousands and thousands of drill points that begin here and then go in a diagonal line following the San Andreas all the way down to here, where the drill points literally come up to the San Andreas, with thousands and thousands more. They look like ants on the ground. The wells, or the jacks, the pumps. So, line of earthquakes goes down, and then where the drill points start, poof, no quakes. Then, down here to the south, where the drill points somewhat putter out at the south tip of the valley, we pick back up with quakes, equidistantly spaced, all the way back over to Ridgecrest, and then look at Ridgecrest out here in the desert. Do you see it? It's a diagonal line of quakes. That diagonal line of quakes is pointing in the same direction that this is. Wait a second. So we come down, we jump over, and this is doing the same thing, going in the same direction. And that points back to these. And all these are going in the same direction as the San Andreas. So San Andreas, moving all the way down in a diagonal line down to the south tip of the valley, going through the pumping operations, picking back up on the Garlock. Now up here to the north, all of these locations are not drill points. Or the San Andreas, obviously. We're on the east side of California. All of these locations here are taking us next to known volcanoes. This whole cluster here between Lake Tahoe and Pyramid Lake, a giant caldera between Lake Tahoe and Pyramid Lake. Undiscovered by professionals. It's a supervolcano. Missed by the professionals. Meanwhile, down to the south, there's a big ring of earthquakes around the known supervolcano at the California-Nevada border. Then there's another cluster of quakes down at Yuba Hibi Craters, and another cluster of earthquakes all the way around our nuke test sites. We're not doing nukes there now. Then another cluster of earthquakes over at the Markagunt volcanic field, and then up here, making a ring or a crescent shape across a bunch of drill points in Utah. Let's recap, and I can prove all that to you in case you don't believe me that there's volcanoes at these locations. Again, I would never expect people to go do the legwork and look it up themselves. You would have to pull the coordinates for each one of these and look them up. That would take an hour, and nobody's going to do that, are they? That's what I'm here for. Let's go look it up. Starting up in Northern California, and we'll make a line going down along the border. I almost said the coast. Here we are. Here's our earthquake epicenter, and we are right next to Jimerson Mountain Volcano and Rattlesnake Butte. We're sandwiched between the two. Briscoe Butte. Do you see the volcanic field that's there? These are all lava flows, in case you didn't know. Even these right here. All this is lava flow. It's old. It's covered. Goes back up this way. All this discoloration here. And it goes back to Hackamore Volcanic Field, which is how many? 850 square kilometers in size. This whole thing is an ancient volcanic plateau from the Ice Age. But on the perimeters of it are the younger volcanoes with their lava flows like this. These are not forest fire locations. You can trace this back to High Hole Crater, where on the side of High Hole Crater, this younger lava flow, you can clearly see that the lava flow is younger than the volcano, and you can see there's another older one covered in trees next to it. Anyway, those are power lines going through the volcanic field, in case you're wondering. Why do they put power lines through volcanic fields, Dutch? Well, Benjamin Franklin discovered that you could get electricity out of the sky by flying a kite. And the electric companies discovered you didn't have to fly a kite. All you got to do is put a wire up there on a big tower a couple dozen feet off the ground or higher. Don't do that, kids. They'll come get you. They're going to come get you. They'll come get you. You try and get that free power. No, seriously, they will. All right, so where are we? We're in the north part of the valley. You see that? I told you we're going to go next to volcanoes on all these. I was not exaggerating. We really are. We're here at Inskip Volcanic Buttes, and it's from the Ice Age again. Here are our craters, and wow, hey, look what's going through the volcanic field. A set of high-voltage power lines again. I wonder why. Did you know that deep-moving magma down below a few kilometers puts free-floating electrons up out of the plate, up into the sky a few hundred feet? Do you know if you put a power line through there, it's going to collect power, and they can redistribute that, put it through transformers, and sell it back to the public? They'll tell you they're generating it at the base station. Sure. I think the base station, the generators, are just to replenish the power back down into the crust. I don't know. I might be wrong. Let's go ahead and put the coordinates in and go out of there and go over to the east. And where are we going to? We're going next to Black Butte Cone. Black Butte Cone South and Maidu. Maidu is the volcanic field. You may recall me talking about Maidu the last, fire season 2 years ago. A series of earthquakes broke out next to Maidu, and we told you all to watch for fires to break out in Northern California after the earthquake swarm. And what happened? Fires broke out right next to Maidu. They blamed it on power lines. Meanwhile, here's Black Butte Cone. South. Apparently, there's a Black Butte Cone north. Up here. Pyroclastic cones. This is in the valley, the north side of the valley, right next to where all the fires are happening at Paradise and all that. So volcano, volcano, volcano. Down to the south, big stack next to the two big stacks next to the volcano. Now I told you between Lake Tahoe and Pyramid Lake was a supervolcano that the professionals missed. Well, the earthquakes should show you that something's there. This is how I found this. There's a cluster of earthquakes just like this for weeks and weeks, if not months on end sometimes. And I finally decided to get on Google Earth and go look up the location. When I did, and I didn't have any place marks at the time, I just looked at it like this, and I plotted the earthquakes around. I saw that the earthquakes were going around something. This giant oval shape. Then I got the volcano place marks, and I saw that this oval shape is lined with its own volcanoes. On the south side is a Ice Age volcanic field called Steamboat Springs, which humans have drilled into to get steam. They have geothermal turbines here, big ones, to get the steam out of here at Steamboat Springs for Reno. Okay, that's at Reno, Steamboat Springs. On the north side of here is the same kind of feature, but they haven't drilled into it. The Needles at Pyramid Lake, apparently you have to be part of this particular Indian tribe reservation to even get there at the spot. But right over the mountaintop are these. Nothing to worry about. Nothing to worry about. What are those? Well, you see there's a road there, and those are actual bunkers with storage things. And I mean, that's a military place. Look, we're worried about this thing right here, not this thing right here. However, this thing right here has a story behind it which I cannot tell you right now. Just know that there's something actually truly mysterious about the military base here and the supervolcano caldera. Not just that the professionals missed the supervolcano caldera there, or the earthquakes that go around the outside edge of this thing, or that they missed the fires that are going around the outside edge of this thing, or that they missed the two geothermal fields that are on both sides of it, or that they missed the two folded basins that are super deep on each side of it. Somehow, everybody missed that this is a giant supervolcano, while they somehow caught that this one is. And they say and tell us about this one. This is Long Valley Caldera. And you should be able to see it's an oval shape. It's lined with volcanoes. It's hit with earthquakes around the outside edge. And it's no big deal to identify it as a supervolcano. They've done VLF measurements and found 1,000 cubic kilometers of melt down below. So they know about this one, but look, this one's smaller. This one's bigger up here to this, older and bigger up to the north. And the only way I found it was all the earthquakes going around it. Then led me to look visually, and I said, whoa, hold on. And then I found the two geothermal fields on either side. That seals the deal. Equidistantly spaced on either side. This thing is an ancient mega supervolcano. Huge. The earthquakes don't lie to us. They show that they go down across. Well, now, they may fake or make up earthquakes, the professionals, but the ones that are reported, if you go look them up, you're going to find. So let's go over here to the east. Monte Cristo Hills Volcanic Buttes. USGS says Mina, Nevada. They leave out that it's an ancient volcanic field. Why? We all know about it. It's marked on Google Earth. Let's go take a look. Well, maybe you don't know about it. Here's Monte Cristo Hills. 6.0 earthquake struck here, and a big surface fissure fracture formed, and it went across this whole range, miles on end. Then another 6.0 earthquake struck right over here, and it led me to find stuff like this out in the desert that made no sense from a very, very, very long time ago. And when I say very, very, very long time ago, I'm not kidding when you see the erosion that's happened here on this ancient pit mine. I'm saying ancient, I'm not, again, these are too old to be made in the last 50 years or 100 years. And with these being older than 100 years old, obviously by the weathering, since we're in the desert, you would ask yourself who was out there quarrying like that 150 years ago, back before the gold rush. Just asking a few inconvenient questions for ancient quarries and tailing piles that go on and make their own mountains. So how high is this one? About 150 feet high and a couple miles long. So let's get back to it. That's where the earthquakes are, out there. Then we go back across the border to the super volcano I already told you about. Further to the south, let's carry on. I said I was going to prove each spot is volcanic in nature. See where it says Goldfield? Goldfinger. Come on, sing it with me, guys. Shirley Bassey, you could probably do it better than me. Goldfield. What's out in the Goldfield? How about Ubehebe Craters? Ubehebe Craters, here, marked. Let's go zoom in on one of the blast craters with a shallow caldera or shallow magma chamber that blew. But it actually expands over to the east and over to the west, all the way out to here, and you can see some of the other volcanic features out, the black and red, discolored igneous rock and lava flows. Okay, and Ubehebe Craters actually goes in both directions, pretty far out in each direction. The earthquake is striking on the north side, and I'd be just willing to bet if I were to go zoom in around the area, I'd probably find unmarked, unnamed volcanic features. Just a guess. I'd have to go in and zoom. Well, hold on. Hey, hold on. Literally right next to it. Okay, I mean, these would have formed back when this was underwater. So we're talking ancient. Are there any more? Uh-oh. Here's a fissure. Okay, so yeah, we've got a fissure that formed out here in the past at some point. That's actually a crack in the ground where lava spattered out. All right. There we go. So did I prove to you that every location from northern, eastern California down through the valley, over to the east, down to the south, down to here so far is at volcanoes? Once we get over here, I said nuke test site, right? I could grab any one of the coordinates here and go look them up. Let's get the one on the north side or one of the ones on the north side. 0.5, 52 kilometers east of Beatty, Nevada. And we're going to go put the coordinates in and see what's there. I already know what's there. I've looked up the location 1,000 million times. Well, 1,000 times. 1,000 million would be too many. That's a billion. There we are. We're at the nuke sites directly. Here's the valley where they did a bunch of underground nuke site tests. And over here next to Scrogum Peak is where we did the newer test in the 80s and 90s. And I can turn on the gallery. People on Google have taken some painstaking time to research each one of these. And, I mean, you can get the information. September 26, 1979, 140 kilotons right there. And again, all of these, this is not from aerial bombardment. These are all U.S. nuke Operation Buff, B-U-F-F. December 16, 1965, 51 kilotons. U.S. nuke Operation AUK, AUK, 12 kilotons, real small compared to the others. So, you know, it's bad when I'm saying kilotons are small. Anyway, that's where the nuke site is, and then it goes down to the south, over to the east. The only ones that I would really want to look up are the two oddballs further out, spread out over to the further east, and I got a feeling I know what's over here. Yeah. Nevada, that's what's there. See how it just says Nevada? Nothing there. Surface blast, surface quake, whatever you want to call it. I wonder why it just says Nevada and doesn't tell us what's there. Let's go look. Wait till you see what's here. Here's the earthquake epicenter. There's a big base right here. You see that? This place is called Area 51, in case you've never heard of it. The famous Groom Lake facility with its double-long runways and the alien base, as they say, right? Don't worry about it. Over to the east, like I said, we carry on over to the Markagunt Plateau, and then up to the north in Utah, we go to pumping operations. So we're going to another volcano, and then we're going to go up in Utah to the east, next to Sunnyside at a pumping operation. Here is the earthquake epicenter. It's at an airport, is it? An airport, is it now? Well, like I said, Markagunt, right there. The huge Markagunt Plateau, which this airport is on, or built inside of. So there it is, marked by the Smithsonian. It goes all the way up to here, and all the way back down to here to the edge of the Grand Canyon. Down to Molly's Nipple and Calf Pasture. And that's named after a cow's udder or something. Serious. Okay, let's move on up to the east-northeast. We're going over into east-northeast Utah. Kenilworth, Utah. This is north of Sunnyside. This is on the edge of a mountain range, but this is one of the biggest pumping operations in the northwest or western states. All of this location is drilled. So I'll just zoom in. We're going to randomly start zooming in on spots just to prove to you that these are wells. There's a jack or a pump there, and then you start to see there's a whole bunch of them all over the place, and they go through the mountains. We can just follow the pumping operations through the mountains out the other side over to here, and you'll see there's hundreds more. And this is nothing, even though there's hundreds. It goes into, look, thousands of them. They look like a grid on the ground. That's how many there are. We go across through the fields, through the farmers' fields even. Through the marshes and next to the rivers. Go out the other side through the farmers' fields back into the desert. We go over to the east and we get into what I call insane overdrive drilling, where every one of these little white patches on the ground you might think might be natural sand dunes due to the spacing are not. They're all drill points. Haphazardly done across the hilltops everywhere, all the way across. So now you start to see it. So I just took you from over here, up and through the mountains, across the whole valley, and back over to here. And all this is drilled. Now you get to see how much of Utah really is drilled. That whole thing. Oh, wait, let me turn off my volcano so you can see Utah. All this, going from here up and around, all of that is drilled. And our earthquakes go in a ring or a crescent shape like this, right on the edge of the drill points. And the earthquakes go back down to here where the drill points start. So we get like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 wells down here, like next to nothing. Small wells, or sparsely spaced. That's where they start right there. And then we just go crazy by the time we get all the way across this whole basin. That's where the quakes are there. So recapping, volcano, 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 nuke site, volcano, drill points. What about up here to the north? Up here in Salt Lake City. What would you do if I told you there's a reason the earthquake is striking there, and there's a reason they're just listing it as Utah as opposed to telling you what the nearest town is? if you go look up the earthquake epicenter, you will find that there is something there nearby. Let me show you. So whenever you see that suspicious, doesn't tell you what's their nearby coordinate, you need to probably start to go pull the coordinates on that and go look it up. So, what's there nearby? Well, right down here is a place called Magna, Utah. Right through here. Thiokol Corporation and the others have right here. And a series of earthquakes broke out here over the course of many, many weeks and months 2 years ago. Or actually 3 years ago. 3 years ago, an earthquake swarm broke out here all the way across, and I had to zoom in to find that Thiokol Corporation and their bunkers were here. Then, a new earthquake swarm broke out up here on the north side of Salt Lake City. And I zoomed in up here, and I saw there were more Thiokol Corporation bunkers up here. So that was two separate swarms where there's two sets of bunkers, both by Thiokol, or ATK Orbital, and yet the earthquakes are striking many kilometers down in the plate. So we're parallel to the spot, right across the underside of the valley over to here. Literally right next to it across the valley. I don't know what to make of it other than to tell you that I'm finding these things and I have to document them as I find them. Is there anything else here nearby worth mentioning? It looks like we do have a dam here, but the dam does not look like it's being used for hydroelectric generation. Looks like it's being used for reservoir purposes, which is suspect in its own right, considering you got so much going on up there already. Is there anything else here nearby? Houses? Okay, we're not concerned about houses. All I'm looking for, are there any bunkers? Are there any kind of weird facilities that might be generating power or anything else? What's this? Oh. Wow. Giant quarries. Giant quarries going into the mountains here, right there. Okay, nothing go wrong there, right? So I'm going to lend towards the underground tunneling that could be going on across the area. If we're directly parallel across from where the previous swarm happened, we're right next to it. This is the Wasatch Fault, but yeah, they'll drill right along the fault, as I showed you out in California. That's the only one that's questionable. Let's go up to the north. This should take us to Sulphur Peak, but it just says southern Idaho now, doesn't it? Isn't that great? Takes us into another volcanic field. I know this location only because previous earthquakes struck here. We'll turn on our place marks in a moment. There we are. Okay, there we are. Sulphur Peak is right here. Wait, where are my borders, labels, and places? Where's Sulphur Peak? All the peaks are gone. Where are my peak place marks? You kidding me? All the peaks are gone. Look. All the mountain peak marks are gone. They deleted them. You got to be kidding me. For real. Not exaggerating here. You got to be kidding me. Wow. Okay. All the peaks are now not coming up. Well, you'll have to take my word for it. That right here is a place called Sulphur Peak. And right next to it, you've got mines at Soda Springs, which gets its name from the effervescence in the water coming from the Conda Buttes and Blackfoot lava field marked by the Smithsonian. We can follow these ancient volcanoes, China Cap Butte, China Hat, North Cone, out to Cinder Island Volcano, which is just a fissure, actually. Anyway, the volcanic field there and Sulphur Peak right next to it, the earthquake right next to Sulphur Peak. Then we get back up to the northwest. We're at Yellowstone here. And we are at Yellowstone here in Idaho. In central Idaho, the magma chamber for Yellowstone goes down from the park. That's at the Wyoming border. And goes all the way below Idaho. The feeder for the greater part of the Yellowstone magma chamber is below this spot where these earthquakes are happening now. These earthquakes are up above the deepest part of the center of Yellowstone's magma chamber in Idaho, even though it comes up to the surface at Wyoming. Up in the northwest, like I said, we're at Mount Rainier and Mount St. Helens. I did not look up this earthquake swarm across the border over into Government Camp, Oregon. I shouldn't need to for longtime viewers. You should know what's at Government Camp if you're a longtime viewer. This is only for the noobs. The noobs that are here. You newbie? Are you? Well, you'll always remember this one. Government Camp is at the base of Mount Doom. Mount Hood. Mount Doe, if you spell it backwards. So, Mount Hood, volcano, stratovolcano, Government Camp down at the base. That's the name of the town. All right, so I shouldn't need to tell you that Government Camp is a volcano. And I shouldn't need to tell you Mount St. Helens is a volcano, nor should I need to tell you or show you that Mount Rainier is a volcano. What about the other onesie-twosie earthquakes over into Washington? Let's go take a look. White Swan. I guess that's better than a black swan, right? Got a black swan event. Wait till you see what's here. It's going to make sense in about 2 seconds. Black swan event. No shit. Wow. Okay, anyway, that gets a little weird. Do you see all the volcanoes that are here? Right? Okay. So, over here just to the east is this, the Hanford Nuclear Waste Storage Facility. The Hanford site, the Superfund cleanup site, where they built all the experimental reactors in the Manhattan Project, and then broke them down, took them apart, took the caskets, left the casket, took the material, put them in storage here, and then it got out. The material, some of it. How'd it get out? Well, which time, right? I could tell you how it got out. You want to know one of the times it got out? An earthquake swarm started to break out around this thing. I started making videos on the earthquakes. People told me it meant nothing. A few days after the earthquake swarm took place, the ground opened up here at the site and exposed an underground tunnel that nobody apparently knew was there or forgot about, or it was there, but they just didn't ever do anything about it. And the tunnel collapsed and opened up to the outside air. In the tunnel were a bunch of train cars, and the train cars had open exposed tops on them, and they were filled with radioactive uranium filings. Dust. And it all blew out when the ceiling collapsed and the tunnel was exposed. And it was all just a few days after the earthquake swarm struck over here on the western side. And over here on the western side, over here, right along through here, is a place called Gravity Hill. And you're welcome to go look this up if you need to, but Gravity Hill is supposedly a spot where your car will roll uphill. Again, I don't believe that stuff or anything. There it is, Gravity Hill. Now, why does it matter, though? Gravity Hill there next to the nuclear site. And they say it's just due to an optical illusion of the grading of the road and that your car doesn't roll uphill. But right next to it is this, the Hanford LIGO Gravity Wave Observatory, where they built, in the last 20 years, this giant laser housing where they cross the lasers in a scalar in the center and look for vibrations of the lasers. Now, the lasers are supposedly picking up gravity waves coming from across the universe. Yeah. Well, it's pointing at a right angle towards the heaviest elements known to man on the periodic chart here on the planet. So I don't know if we're really looking for gravity waves coming from across the universe. I'm thinking more like coming from over in Russia, and that they have figured out over in Russia back in the 1970s and 80s how to cross certain waves over the United States in a scalar, and that can detonate nuclear things, like Lieutenant Colonel Thomas Bearden told us, that the Russians can detonate our stored nuclear waste through radio waves, and that it's through scalar, and that the way to detect scalar is through crossed lasers. And that's all in the 1980s, before the gravity wave sensing station was built here. And it was just built here by chance, they said. Never mind Gravity Hill next to it that pre-existed all of it. Yeah, let's get back to the volcanoes. That's a little less convoluted. So, going through all these locations, Mount Hood, Mount Rainier, Mount St. Helens, then the nuke sites, whether they're being used now or not, down all the way through California. Then we get into supervolcano, 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 and another nuke site. We go in a line of earthquakes down the San Andreas. We get down to another set of drill points, and we pick up back down at Ridgecrest, where I haven't even talked about Southern California yet, because we branched out and went over to volcano, 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 and more drill sites. So what do the volcanoes the drill sites, and the electrical generation and nuke sites all have in common. Weak points in the plate where an electrical wave that's down in the plate will seek out as it's going through the area. And that's the same thing that we have in common over in Texas, at the drill points in Texas, getting the same size quakes, 3.1, 3.1, 3.1, going across the area to the drill points there. Once we get into the New Madrid seismic zone, we are not at drill points. We're at something far more peculiar. Let's go look it up in southeastern Missouri. It's interesting that they didn't tell you that this is right next to the town of New Madrid. Instead, they just tell you southeast Missouri. You know what would happen if the word New Madrid showed up on the USGS page, don't you? All the people who are normies at the USGS site would shit Twinkies and start, pardon my language, but that's exactly what they would do. And they'd start freaking out when they see the word New Madrid on there because they can't help themselves because they're fear-mongering fools when they see small earthquakes at a location that's well known. And here we are now. We're at the town of New Madrid. We are literally right on the outside of the town of New Madrid, and USGS didn't bother to tell you that at all. Now, there's something here. There's something very significant right here that I need to show you, right next to the earthquake epicenter. Like I said, volcanoes, nuke power plants, drill points. What do they have in common? And then we go over to here, and we don't have a drill point, a volcano, or a nuke power plant. Look what we've got. See this? See it says Mounds Park Cemetery. This is a giant Native American burial, quote-unquote, mound. And I found this not by going down to the town of New Madrid. Like, look at the high school next to it, by the way. Look at the shape. But anyway, let's go in and take a look and see what they have there at this Indian mound. Oh, the town's water tower, and a graveyard, and the mound, and the high school where the government came in and dug up right next to it. Now, what would you do if I told you that there's a giant, old, ancient star fort here in the New Madrid seismic zone? And that the star fort that is here has been missed by everyone. I had to find it myself. Let me show it to you. Well, here, hold on. Let me turn off all the borders and labels so you can really see it. I don't want to cloud your vision other than to show you what's there. Here we are. This thing. I'll stop spinning it around in a second. There we go. So, again, I don't want you to, see shapes. Look at it. This is 6 miles by 9 miles and is made of foothills. So you can't tell me it's forestry, clear-cut, or farmland that's done this. No, this is 6 miles by 9 miles, and it's a giant, ancient bastion fort built right along the river, and it went across the river, and apparently they used this thing to gatekeep the river. Whoever built it thousands of years ago. So this was not built by the French or the Spanish. This is made out of foothills. It's 6 miles by 9 miles. It would be the biggest structure man ever built aside from the Great Wall of China. It gate-kept or went across the old Missouri River, and there's another one up here on the north side that the professionals actually acknowledge, and that's here. This one is now 10 feet. It's been scraped out. It's called Fort Kaskaskia, and they have a state park right over here on the other side of the river to dedicate it to this place. Pierre Menard's home state historic site at Fort Kaskaskia State Historic Site, overlooking the actual old fort that gate-kept the river here. And this went around, whoever built this a long time ago, this went around and came back out down here to the south, down here. And it's not up for debate, but it's proof that there's an ancient civilization that was here a long time ago, and the earthquakes that are striking there are striking below the Native American mounds for the same reason that they're striking at the nuke sites and at the volcanoes. Why? There's electrical force in the plate that's going through the plate. Now, to seal the deal that something weird's going on here in the United States, I just turned the map where St. Louis is on the east side. New Madrid that I just showed you, that star fort, is down here. This is St. Louis is proportional on one side of the back of this, and this is a giant 5-sided pentagonal shape where in the middle we have Fort Leonard Wood. Fort Leonard Wood Army Base. right here in the middle. So this thing is built into the plate. It's 300 miles long. The New Madrid is on one side. St. Louis is on the other. Kansas City is over here, and Little Rock, Arkansas is down here. Tulsa, Oklahoma is up here on the right side, and Muskogee, Oklahoma, with the famous Muskogee Airmen, is right there at the pinnacle tip. In the middle is Branson and Fort Leonard Wood. Well, Branson and Fort Leonard Wood, two different spots in the middle. Now, you might say that's just seeing shapes, but it's not, because this actually has a military base built in the middle of it. And you might say, well, what does that mean? And what if I told you that I could show you other spots here on the West Coast that have military bases built into the tips of them as well? And I've already talked about this in my past updates. That's Edwards Air Force Base that I just zoomed in on right there in the middle. And so we have these all over the planet. We're getting earthquakes next to them. And that's where our earthquakes are there on the New Madrid seismic zone. Once we get over to the east, we're going into South Carolina. And you'll notice they don't have a town name triangulated here. I caught some talk about Fort Jackson. This is not Fort Jackson. However, this is an earthquake epicenter we must look up to see what's there. I don't have to normally look up South Carolina, so I don't know what's at the epicenter. Is it a quarry blast or anything of the sort? No, it's a 2.9 kilometer depth. What do we have here? Looks like we've got row housing of McMansions. Oh, there it is. Fort Jackson. I was right. That is Fort Jackson. All right. Well, hey, we're on the north side of another military base. I don't know about all that. What if I told you that this military base has been built inside of a giant triangular shape of its own right? And to see it, you have to turn the United States sideways. And to see that this river basin is actually an ancient triangle, and the military base is built right in the middle, just by chance, just like all the others. We go up to the northeast. I haven't bothered to look up this lone quake up here in Quebec. I probably should, and I'll probably find something disturbing at the location. Masquinonge. How do you say that? It's French. Ha! Oui. Tremblement de terre. That's all I know. Earthquake. That's all that matters to me. I'm going to come up there and take over, guys. Hope you're ready. I'm bringing a bunch of firefighting equipment. You're going to hate me. Apparently, fighting fires up there is a real problem. I don't know. Your media came in after me when I started talking about it. So let's go and take a look and just see what's going on here. Is there anything of any significance worth mentioning nearby? It could just be a random earthquake on the edge of the North American craton with no precipitating factor whatsoever. You never know. However, if I found a giant power generating facility or a military base here nearby, I'd start to worry. Or a bunch of drill points or something. In this case, it looks like a bunch of sinkholes. Now, I know you've got a lot of marshland and wetland right along there. I wonder how much drilling is going on through here. Oh, wait. We've got huge trunks of high voltage power lines going through the area. I wonder where that goes back to. Please tell me we don't have some kind of giant power generating facility here nearby. Oh, well, looks like we do. We've got a titanium factory there nearby. It's going to be pulling in a lot of power. I wonder if there's anything else there. Dear God, titanium factory and a bunch of high voltage power lines. I'd look for drill points. That's what I'm going to have to look for now. That's the only thing missing now would be oil and gas or methane drill points in Quebec. Anyway, we've got the power lines there. That's fishy enough. And then the rest with the titanium factory, I don't know. That's going to be a lot of power going there. That's the only one that's suspect out of all the rest of the quakes that I showed you going across the United States. Finally, Southern California. You guys ready? Let's wrap this up. How long has it been? 2 freaking hours? Southern California. Once we get down here, let's go pull the coordinates. Drill points again. We get right next to drill points. That's east of Malibu, east of Lompoc. We get down here into the LA Basin. We have more drill points in downtown LA. Inglewood at the Baldwin Hills. Once we get over to East LA, we can resume back up. We're next to, well, actually, I do want to go look these up. Let's go pull this one over here, this 1.1 at Chino Hills. I just got to see how close we're going to this spot here. The rest, again, the rest are long time spots we've looked up before. But if we start to branch across East LA, just want to see how close we start getting. There's Brea, not to be confused with the La Brea tar pits. Firestone, I just got to see. I just want to see if there's anything here worth mentioning. The only way to do this is to look it up live, by the way. I could pause it or something and be put music on for you guys to listen to. Air museums. The institution. All right, well, we're across the street from the institution, but other than that, I wonder what's over here on this hillside. Oh, look at that. A landfill. Oh, nothing go wrong there. You know, they usually do the landfills inside of old quarries that used to exist. I just wonder if there's any drill points here nearby. Well, usually when you get the quarries, you're also going to get the drill points. That's for farming right there. If we don't have any drill points here nearby, I'll be extremely shocked to find that out. This is California. Anyway, I'm not going to waste your time trying to find drill points. I just wanted to see if there was anything worth mentioning there. We're going right across. It's suspect. Right now, it's just on fault zone movement. That would be going over towards the San Jacinto and Elsinore. So there's a line of quakes going across North LA. Most of them are at drill points. You don't have to take my word for it. You can go look them up around Baldwin Hills and going out to Malibu at the offshore rigs. The rest of the quakes going in a diagonal line down towards the border. Once you get down here, we're in Salton Sea and right across at the border. So what's in Salton Sea and what's at the border? Why are we just stopping there? Bombay Beach, California. Bombay Beach. Go get. Didn't they have the Bombay Beach Company or something there? It's like clothing. I remember Bombay Beach was like a 1980s thing. Okay, anyway, we're on the edge of Salton Sea. Here is the active volcano list because Salton Sea is a well-known active volcano. We're right on the edge of it. We have boiling mud pots east of Slab City, and those boiling mud pots actually shifted and they had to move the railroad to accommodate for that. Just to go around the boiling mud pots, but the boiling mud pots move around as the plate and, of course, the San Andreas and Imperial Faults. Here's the old mud pots. So you see what happens. They drain out, obviously. They're also generating electrical power there, and down along the border, there's just nothing but electrical generation. Down at Heber, and there's no volcano here at the border. However, there are still geothermal drill points. We're going in right next to a couple of them. So here are the geothermal drill points. They're still getting heat out of the ground here from the volcanoes. And then all of this is electrical generation now. These are not crops. These are solar panel fields. And the amount of power being pulled out of these is insane. A lot of power is actually being generated there. They just go on and on. Farmers are realizing that they can farm sun and make way more every step of the year as opposed to doing crops. All right, so back to it one more time. Backing it out. Line of earthquakes coming in from the northwest, going down to the southeast. We're looking for the central part of California to get a 5.0 range earthquake in the next 2 days. We're looking for 3 to 4.0 level activity to go over to Virginia and the East Coast. We're looking for a near 5, mid-range 4 to strike in Oklahoma, all in the next few days. This coming week, we're going to look for a very large earthquake to strike in the West Pacific, going up to near 8.0 or somewhere very close to it. So mid-range 7 to upper 7. Over here, we're also looking for 6.5 to go north of Japan, just north at Hokkaido. We're also looking for a 6.5 or even bigger up to 7, possibly as high as 7, to strike here at South America going into Central America. And that's a lot going on right there alone. We're going to look for a 5.5 to strike in the Aegean Sea over in Europe, maybe even up to a 6. But again, I'm kind of overestimating on that. It's a lot going on. If anything changes, I will issue new forecast as the time progresses throughout the week. I'm going to save this as a video now, and we'll get it uploaded over on YouTube. And I probably will be likely doing more updates and adjusting the forecast as we go throughout this coming week to add more locations in for large activity. I don't think that's all we're going to see. I think that those spots that I've issued warning for are a good start for this next forecast. My forecast, again, expires in 2 days, and then I will issue another 7-day forecast. Do you have an earthquake plan? 2,000 people perished this week in an earthquake over in Afghanistan. I watched videos of it. I did not see many people running around with their emergency kits, helping other people with their emergency kits. I saw a bunch of people running outside with nothing in their hands except for a phone or less. Do you have an emergency kit? Is it easily accessible? Do you have one at work if you go to work? Do you have one at home? Do you have one in your car? You probably need all three. Jeez. But at least one. Change of clothes, set of shoes, flashlight, batteries, first aid kit, sanitation, medicine, blah, 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 blah. For crying out loud, if you even have a dog leash inside of it, you don't even have to have a dog, you'd be doing better than most people. I'm just saying, you need to have an emergency kit. Do it. Please. 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 I said please. All right. I'm saving this as a video, and we're going to upload to YouTube in just a little bit. I don't know how long it's going to take for it to upload and post, but we will post it and watch it back as a premiere. I would urge everybody to share it. Share the video that I'm putting out now and the one I do in 2 days when I issue the official forecast for this, that we're going to go up another notch. It's pretty obvious. We've got new deep earthquakes. We're already at a 7.0 level. The professionals are having to downgrade it to keep it low, you know what I mean? Keep everybody placated, or however you want to put it. Anyway, all right. Much love. No ranting. Just here to do my update and do my job. Peace out.